Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my video, and today we're going to be taking a look at this little guy. This is the Foxeer Micro Arrow, so let's get right into it. So they come in this tiny little box, which is really nice. It just got some of the stats listed on the back there. 600 TVL, 5 to 40 volts, a couple different colors. It got the 2.1mm NTSC IR block lens. Let's just open this little guy up. You get your manual, camera well protected, and a foam cutout, and a bag with some goodies in it. So in the bag, you just pull this out here. Don't lose these. You get a bunch of little screws and little washers. However, it does not come with any dedicated mount for it, so you're going to have to get something like a TPU thing, like on my floss here you can see, that goes around standoffs, or some other kind of mount. But it is unfortunate that it doesn't come with a mount to adapt to normal holes. You get the camera cable here, which on this end plugs into the camera, and it has the little OSD cable coming off of it. And then this end, you can just cut these as you need. You got the 5 to 40 volts, your video and ground, and then you have this blue wire which goes to your VBAT for the voltage sensing, since this does have an on-screen display that displays your voltage. And then here you have your little controller to plug into the camera through this cable here, so you can change all the OSD menu settings and so forth. If you take a look at the manual, it's a pretty small page of information, but it's actually pretty decently helpful. It goes through everything on here. It tells you how to use the little OSD controller and to access the menus. And now this guy, the settings are actually locked stock because it has a couple different profiles that you can use to save different camera settings. It has like sunny, cloudy, etc. I'll go through that in a minute. But if you want to put in your own custom settings, you have to go to the User 1 or User 2 profile to change the settings. So if we take a close-up look at the camera, you can see it just really is tiny. It's basically the same exact form factor as the RunCam Micro, and the mounting holes on the sides are going to be the same, so they'll fit. And they also sent the Arrow Mini here, which is their mini-style camera, and I have a Foxeer Monster, if you can look here. So you can see how they just go down in size. But I'm actually not going to be doing a video solely on this, just because I don't really see much point in the mini category of cameras, because the micro is here and it's just so small and so light. You either pretty much just go with the full size or go with a micro. The mini is like an in-between that's not really needed. But the mini Arrow is pretty much the same exact size, once again, as the RunCam Micro, and it's going to fit the same mounting holes. But once again, with the mini, it just makes it really hard to mount. You can see I had to have half the bracket to fit it in this frame. Now the back of the camera is just like the Swift Micro from RunCam. It's just the exposed PCB here. However, they do have sort of like a little tape covering over it that screws on, and it'll protect it well enough. But the thing with this camera, it's not that durable because obviously all the protection's gone of the case, but it's just so small, your frame will most likely completely protect it. Like if you look at the blue one in my floss build here, there's absolutely no way anything can hit it. It's completely protected by the frame because it's just so small in there. So it's probably going to be more durable than a regular camera because there's no giant lens sticking out the front to get smashed. So one of the biggest benefits, obviously, with the smaller form factor is that it weighs quite a bit less. So let's get a weight on it. This is the regular, completely stock Monster V1 with a 2.5mm lens. And it comes in at about 14.2 grams right there. So if we take the Micro then, completely stock as well, it comes in at about 5.9 grams. So you're losing like 8 to 10 grams versus a standard camera, which really is quite a bit, and it's easy weight to save because this gives you the same video quality as one of these does. Well, not specifically the Monster, but I mean a full-size camera. And if we just take a look at one of these old board cameras I have sitting around, this thing's kind of hilarious. Look how big it is. Look how small the Micro is compared to this, and the Micro is far, far superior to this thing, so it just shows how times are moving along. The lens itself up at the front is kind of sort of a longer barrel style with like a protector around the edge. If you take a look at the RunCam Micro, you can see it's kind of like a wide angle. It's really fishbowl-y. However, the field of view on both of them is pretty much exactly the same. So this is actually probably even a little bit better because it has sort of protection along the edge of the lens, so you're less likely to damage it. So let's hook this up to the OSD, and I'll take you through the menus quick, and then we'll get out and do some flight testing. Alright, so here's my Hyperfloss with the blue Arrow Micro installed. I just got the little OSD cable pulled out, so I'm kind of love-hate with this thing, because it is nice that you are able to just pull it out real quick and change your OSD settings with this thing, but it's also kind of annoying having to squish it back in there. You know, it might pop out and get chopped by the prop. but I think it's a good feature overall. Alright, so let's just plug in the quad here to get our video feed. And as it boots up here, you can see you get the little Foxeer logo. And I just have the camera hooked up, the Unify. I have a TBS Unify Pro HV Race that goes to full direct battery voltage. And then I have the 5 volts off of that going into the Arrow Micro. It does take 5 to 40 volts, so you could easily power it off of full battery voltage very easily all the way up way past 6S. However, it warns in the manual about the active braking of the ESCs, so I just tend to like to go a little easier on my cameras and give it off 5 or 12 volts if I have a regulator easily available. So let's plug in the OSD cable here, and then we can go through the menu. So if I just press the middle button, actually no, it doesn't access because I'm on the standard. You have to go to user 1 or 2 to access that, but you can see the my name and voltage at the bottom. I already adjusted those. This isn't how it comes stock, but if I press and hold the left button, you can see now I can move this around wherever I want. So if I press and hold the top button here, we can see we get access to the menu there. That's where you can set your name, and I actually had to adjust, you can see this ratio, that's for the voltage. You can just check with your battery checker on the balance lead here to see what voltage it is, and basically it's down 1% there will be 0.1 of a volt. So mine was just a tiny bit high. It's pretty accurate, but I thought 99 scale was better for it. And you can just see this is the default mode. This is vivid, sunny. You can change it very easily. There's preset settings for your camera there, and then you have cloudy. And then this is user 1 and user 2, where you can set up your own settings for a manual thing if you want. So if you want to change color, actual camera settings for the picture, you're going to have to change to one of these, user 1 or user 2. But I just leave it on default, and everything looks good so far. And here you have the font size. 2 is bigger, 0 is the smallest. Leave that stock. And here you can have your name, which is at the top there, Seth PV for me. I switched the timer off because it's not a flight timer, since it's just on the camera. It's just as soon as you power up, and I just find that distracting and not really worth it. And then here you can see the voltage, and you can set everything to default, so we can exit there. And you can't see it from right here, but the voltage OSD actually does update very, very, very quickly. However, Foxeer, I told them about this, and they are, for the actual production model, they're going to be slowing the refresh rate down, which you will be able to see much clearer in the actual flying of this. And if you look at the field of view on the lens, it's actually very, very wide, which is one thing I was worried about because other cameras, for example the Monster V2 here, I just don't like the field of view of them, but on the RunCam Micro, the field of view was awesome. So I'm glad to see, even with this slightly different lens from Foxeer, the field of view is very good. So that was just a quick run through of the menu. So now let's take it outside and get some flight footage. Alright, so here we go with some DVR from the Foxeer Micro. Just powering up. This is completely the stock default settings, and you can see that white flashing when I point up at the ceiling. I'm not sure why that happens, but you can see as soon as I take off it goes away. And now the image right off the bat, you can see it is pretty good. However, in my goggles it was extremely dark. I'm not sure, although the RunCam Rotor Riot Swift, the stock settings on that are very dark for me, so perhaps I just need to increase the brightness in my goggles themselves rather than the camera. Because watching the DVR here, it actually looks pretty decent. You can see when I point it up at the sky there, it just has that like flickering like when I took off, and you can see the lines and whatever just happened there. That happens a couple more times. So I'm not really sure what's going on. Hopefully that's just a firmware issue. Just trying to get a feel for it, but in my goggles, like I said, it was too dark, so I come into land to change the settings a little bit. So it was really easy with the little OSD cable. I just went in and I changed it to the cloudy presetting because it was very cloudy and dark out. So you can see that gives everything a super bluish green tint to it, which honestly is kind of worthless. I don't understand what the preset is for if it looks like this, but if you want to use it. Obviously that was not my style, so I come into land and change it again. So this time I go in and change it to the user 1 profile, which is the default. But then if you exit, then you press the center button, you're able to access all the camera settings. So I just go in and change the brightness. I bring it up by 10 points here, and the dynamic range is off for this profile. However, for the default, the first one, it is still on. So that was good enough. Just go to exit. But once again, that whatever is happening with the image right now, I have no idea what that is. Take off and it's fine. You can see a much brighter, higher brightness image now that I raised that. And it was looking a lot better in the goggles. Just flying around with the field of view here, it is very good. I definitely do like the wide field of view that this 2.1mm lens offers. You can see my props and motors in it. So I'm not sure if that's because the camera's seated farther back into the frame or it's just that wide field of view. But you can see this little tiny track that I usually fly around here through the middle. You know, I'm definitely used to it, and I think it's a very good choice for this guy. You can see up, just looking up the sky, I was doing some up and downs to test the brightness changes of it, but when I go to the sky, it like completely, you know, goes to crap. I mean, it didn't look that bad in my goggles, but it definitely did flicker. So I have, once again, no idea what's wrong with that. Hopefully it's just a firmware issue that can be fixed in the production batch. That was enough of flight testing. Just finishing up the flight here. I'm not sure if the RunCam Micro has some of these flickering issues that I've showed. I flew it, but only in a little 2-inch, so I haven't really fully tested it. I'll have to take it out, put it on a 5-inch to see if it has any of these problems that the Micro Arrow is having. Alright, so there we go. That concludes the little flight testing for this little guy, the Foxeer Micro Arrow. And I actually wasn't that impressed. Like, I'm not sure if you guys could tell. Maybe it was just my goggles. Maybe the DVR looks perfectly fine. I haven't looked at it yet. I just finished flying that battery. But it was kind of like, especially at the bottom of the screen or in real fast movement, it almost like wave and shimmer in the image there. And it was just a very green image overall. And if you could see, the first time I took off, it was completely on the stock default settings. And it was just really dark. So I used this little guy. This actually came in quite handy. Really easy to just change it. So I am a big fan of this now. We can just plug it in. Didn't even have to unplug the quad. Changed it to the cloudy setting. And it was even worse. I mean, the dynamic range might have been a little bit better, but everything was like super green. So I changed to the user 1 profile so I could change some settings, and it looked like the wide dynamic range was turned off. I'm not sure if it's like that in the default one, perhaps that was why, but I turned the brightness up also as well a little bit, and that made it much better, much easier to fly through, and a very good camera like that. I actually didn't even take notice of the voltage down there because I never fly with an OSD anyways, but I'm pretty sure it has the really fast refresh rate. However, I told Foxeer about that, and they will be, for the production version of this, they will be slowing the refresh rate down because it just goes so fast you can't even really look at it. But, you know, if you're racing, you're not really going to be looking at it that much anyways because you're focusing on finishing the race. Now, all in all, I definitely do like this camera, but because of some of those issues that I had, like the lens shimmering, once again, I'm not even sure if that was just my goggles because sometimes they get weird if the plugs aren't turned and seated correctly. Maybe the DVR looks okay, but I'm not sure if the RunCam Micro had that because I flew that in a little guy, but I never noticed it. But maybe I'll have to swap it into one of my race frames here so I can compare it directly. Yeah, that was the end of the video. Hopefully you enjoyed the review. There will be links down below to check it out if you're interested. Please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.